We have another spotlight on aligned research. This time the spotlight is coming to you from the National Math and Science Initiative. And the speaker will be talking about how to create a STEM identity in middle school students. Please help me welcome Jeremy Anderson, the CEO of the National Science and Math Initiative, who will tell us about creating a strong pipeline into STEM. Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. It's an honor to be here, and I've got a really short time, so I'm going to talk fast, and I'm going to throw a lot of data at you. And I think it's really important that we think about what do we want to accomplish here. I want to be able to talk about task number 5 in CCSSO's great report on a nation of problem solvers, that we need to increase early access to advanced mathematics. And I also want to talk about the importance that without high-quality, world-class STEM teacher professional development, we may not be able to turn that corner. And to make it fun, I want to do the entire presentation as we look at this through the lens of the exploding STEM economy here in America. When we look at the impact teachers have on our students, we know that teachers have 2 to 3 times the impact of any other factor in a student's K-12 outcome. We also know that 60% of teachers really don't feel that their professional development is meaningful. Was I a teacher? No, I was in politics. I've been doing state and federal work my entire career. But my mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. Combined, they have 65 years in the classroom. My wife of 25 years has been in the classroom for 15 years. And one of our daughters, she just started her first year as a middle school teacher in a Midwestern state. Thank you. The important thing here is that we have to have a way to really help these math teachers understand how to make these children's experiences real world and hands-on, because the economy is changing faster than we know. We know that STEM jobs are going to increase at 3.5 times the rate of any other industry in America over the next 10 years. The average job that's not STEM will increase by less than 2%. If you're in a science and engineering career, you're going to be increasing by over 10%. And this is the trend that we see moving for all opportunities for these students to succeed. This is a map I look at once, twice, okay, probably 10 times a day in meetings I'm having with districts and with corporations. This is not a map of where STEM is proliferant in the United States. This is a map of new STEM facilities that are supposed to be built between now and 2030. The black dots are semiconductor facilities. That's in your phone, it's in your car, it's in your home. The orange dots are electric vehicle batteries. The green dots are new electric vehicle automobile production facilities. There's solar, there's nuclear, and all of these have all been announced and are in the process of being built right now. And the problem we have is that when you look at the forecast for these STEM jobs, we're not going to be on track as a nation if we don't make math a priority. When you look at just the numbers for the semiconductor industry, and this is a report they released last fall, they anticipate in those 19 factories that they are going to produce 114,000 new jobs. And with K-12 and post-secondary, we're on track right now to barely fill 60% of those jobs. Nationwide by 2030, we will have 1.4 million STEM jobs that are unfilled if we don't help these students turn the corner. And it's a great opportunity for them to grow. The other thing you've got to remember is using a little math. I like demographics. Some of you remember the dot-com bust in 2007. Well, not only did people have financial difficulties, but believe it or not, we had a lot less babies born over a 6-year period. From 2008 to 2013, the number of live births went down significantly. Those 2008 born babies are juniors in high school. So next year, they're a senior. So even if you do amazing work in your states and in your districts and you increase graduation rates, we will be graduating less people at a time when we need more STEM jobs. And that's a great opportunity for those students. When we look at what matters, a lot of these corporations talk about going to community colleges, post-secondary, talking to high school students. It actually happens so much earlier. The research shows that STEM identities are actually formed in many cases before you get to middle school. And when we look at some of the research across the country on this, we know that like Gen Z, 79% of them said they think STEM would be fun to go into, but less than 29% of them actually aspire for a STEM career. We know that with young women, it's not even middle school when they turn. It's as they're entering middle school that the number of young women who want to go into a STEM career drops precipitously. And intentionally preparing our educators, it matters. Back talking about my daughter, who's a first-year teacher, I've had conversations with her. I've asked her as a fifth grade teacher, have you been trained in vertical alignment? Do you understand what your students need to master by sixth grade or by seventh grade to be ready to take algebra in eighth grade? And unfortunately, her answer was no. And it's something she aspires for now. But this is what we need to do to help those teachers understand how to make this real world for all of these students to have higher outcomes. We did a study with the Department of Defense, and there's a lot of professional development providers out there. This is a study we did with the DoD STEM office just on middle school training that we provided. But we trained 150 teachers, and over 3 different years, 3 different cohorts, the impact of those teachers hit 11,000 students. And across that training, the study came back from the independent researcher that, 1, STEM confidence increased exponentially with all of those students. The second is that they started to understand algebraic reasoning. Again, these are middle schoolers, not high schoolers. But the most important part is that we saw increased academic achievement for all students, but even higher increases for those students who are in your achievement gap, where you're focused as a state leader. You're probably saying to me, really good, Jeremy, makes sense, but you don't understand my budget. My state's more local control. You don't understand how we're going to fund all of this. I would tell you that there are Fortune 500 companies that are already paying for this kind of teacher professional development. And if you look at my map where all the growth is happening in these STEM facilities, you ought to be building a partnership with some of those companies because they know right now they can't fill the jobs that they need for that position. I talked with the Panasonic EV battery plant being built 20 miles from my daughter's school. And they have 1,000 jobs filled. They have 3,000 more to fill. And they're concerned about 5 years out not having a K-12 pipeline that can keep that plant that they built for 30 years still running. We've had investments from Texas Instruments for over 20 years in the PD work that we do in Texas. General Motors is funding work that we're doing in Michigan, in Texas, and in Georgia. Department of Defense has done a lot of work with a lot of nonprofits who do this training because they're looking at workforce changes not just for the military, but for academia and for private sector. And I think it's really important when you think about the outcomes. For us, the outcome that we look at is, are we preparing these students for these STEM careers, which can be life-changing and put them in a really good financial advantage? Of those positions for the semiconductor facility, those 114,000, 40% of them are a high school degree and 1 credential. So if you went to a community college and got the credential, you could be starting at age 19 or 20 with a $65,000 job and a guaranteed industry that you can succeed in. And all of this matters on how the teacher professional development is actually given when you're in 3rd or 4th grade. We look at the national average, 18% of our high school graduates actually go into a STEM career. If you have high quality, world-class teacher professional development for your math and science teachers, it's 35% of those high school graduates go into a STEM career. And that's the pipeline that we need to build to change the economy for many of these communities. 2 quick case studies I just want to throw out. One is in Dallas. Texas Instruments has been funding in Dallas and around the Texas area for almost 20 years. But they funded us for the first time last year in Dallas. We trained 187 teachers. And the important impact was that we were able to increase the number of students who enrolled in AP, but we had a 46% increase in the number of AP exams taken because of the training that we were able to work with them on. And most importantly, there were 1,000 additional AP college qualifying scores for 1 year. That's 3,000 college credit hours that increased for the 7th largest school district in America. When we look at that from a big district, okay, we went in and worked with 1. You can do that with your smaller districts too. And I want to commend Richard Woods in Georgia for the work his team has done. Because the second case study is more a state level one. General Motors wanted to do some investment work in workforce in Georgia. I kind of assumed we'd be working in a big metropolitan area. But we actually went and met with Richard. We met with his team. They were really helpful, and they said, we actually have rural communities that have STEM facilities being built, and we don't have the workforce to fill those jobs. And so we actually met in a rural area of Georgia 2 months ago. We met with 17 school district superintendents, and we're doing a 4-day training in June just for those districts. And we're doing it with the Chamber of Commerce in the area because they're interested in figuring out how do we partner longer term. I say all of this because this isn't just about math scores we're worried about. This is about building the future economy for the students who can succeed in this area, and every student can succeed in this area. And if we are going to look at HQIM and assessments and meaningful state policies and access to classes, we have to. But if we want to get the outcomes, we're going to have to keep remembering that we actually have to make sure we're giving the teachers the training that they need to be able to succeed and help us get to the end of this journey. Together, we actually have the ability to power the STEM workforce, and it starts through STEM professional development. And it'll be a fun opportunity if you keep looking at that map in your state, and I can give you where they are in your states. Look at those companies that are going to be building and think about what kind of a partnership you should be building with them for the future economy. Thank you very much.